They waited in the fabric shop until nightfall. The alarms had stopped, but Taemin could see security patrols moving through the streets. The outpost was locked down tight. Colonial authorities and Valkyrie search teams were working together, checking every building and questioning every resident. Through a small window, Taemin watched the news feeds on public displays. Then he saw something that made his heart stop. A woman appeared on the screen. She was tall and regal, wearing flowing robes that seemed to shimmer with their own light. Her skin had the same glowing markings as Hana, but more elaborate, forming complex patterns across her face and arms. Her eyes were sharp and intelligent, but there was pain in them. Deep, unmistakable pain. "That is my mother," Hana whispered beside him, her voice breaking. "Queen Yuna." The news anchor spoke with barely contained excitement. In an unprecedented move, Queen Yuna Velkaris herself has arrived at Keshar 7 to personally oversee the search operations. The Queen rarely leaves the Velkari homeworld, making this visit historically significant. The broadcast switched to the Queen speaking. Her voice was powerful but controlled. "I addressed the people of this outpost directly. My daughter, Princess Hana Velkaris, is missing. She is young, alone, and possibly injured. I ask anyone with information to come forward. I promise no harm will come to those who help her. I offer the protection of the Velkari Empire to anyone who aids in her safe return." The Queen's composure cracked slightly. "If my daughter is watching this, please know that I am here. I will not stop searching until I find you. You are safe to reveal yourself. I am here personally to ensure your safety." Hana pressed her hand against the window, tears running down her face. "Mother," she whispered, "I want to go to her. I miss her so much." Taemin put a comforting hand on her shoulder. "I know, but we have to be smart about this. The assassins are watching too. If you just reveal yourself publicly, they might strike in the chaos. Then what do? We contact her directly, like we planned. We send her a message only she would understand." They waited until the patrols thinned out in the early morning hours. Then they moved carefully through the shadows toward the outpost's communications center. It was a small building, lightly guarded because most of the security forces were out searching. Taemin used his maintenance access codes to enter through a side door. Inside, he found the communication equipment he needed. Working quickly, he set up a transmission using the encryption data from Hana's escape pod. "Message has to be specific," he told Hana. "Something that proves you're really you and that I really helped you." Hana spoke into the recorder. "Mother, this is Hana. I am alive and safe. A human mechanic named Taemin found me and has protected me. I trust him completely. He has repaired my shield generator and translator using only basic tools and his understanding of our technology. The pod's identification code is VEL779. Only family members would know that code. Please send someone trustworthy. The assassins are still hunting me." Taemin added his own message. "Your Majesty, I have included detailed technical specifications of the repairs I made to the princess's equipment. Only someone who physically examined the escape pod would have this information. I request a private meeting to ensure the princess's safety. Coordinates for a secure location are encrypted in this message." He sent the transmission through multiple relays, making it nearly impossible to trace, but directing it to the Velkari command ship in orbit. Then they left quickly, returning to their hiding place. Now they could only wait and hope the message reached the right person. Hours passed with agonizing slowness. Hana dozed fitfully while Taemin kept watch. He was exhausted but too nervous to sleep. What if the message was intercepted? What if the Queen didn't believe it? What if they had made a terrible mistake? As dawn approached, Taemin's communication device buzzed. A message encrypted with the same codes he had used. His hands shook as he opened it. Message received and verified. Security Chief Daehyun will make contact. Trust no one else. An hour later, there was a quiet knock on the shop's back door. A specific pattern. 3 knocks, pause, 2 knocks, pause, 1 knock. The pattern Taemin had included in his message. He opened the door carefully. A Velkari male stood there, tall and imposing. He wore armor that looked ceremonial but was clearly functional. His face was stern, marked with scars that spoke of long service and many battles. But his eyes, while cautious, didn't seem hostile. "I am Daehyun, Chief of Royal Security," he said in perfect universal standard. "I serve Queen Yuna directly. You are Taemin, the mechanic?" "Yes, and you're here for Hana. I am here to verify she is safe and to escort her to the Queen, but I must be certain." The princess's safety is my highest priority. If this is a trap, know that I am prepared to defend her with my life. It's not a trap. Hana? Taemin called softly. The princess emerged from the back room. When she saw Daehyun, her face lit up with joy and relief. Uncle Daehyun. The stern warrior's expression softened immediately. Little Star, he said gently, using what was clearly a childhood nickname. We have been so worried. Your mother has not slept since you disappeared. Hana ran to him and he caught her in a careful embrace. For a moment, the fierce security chief looked like a concerned family friend. Then his professional demeanor returned. We must move quickly. I came alone as requested, but I cannot guarantee the area is secure. The assassins are still active. What about Taemin? Hana asked. He comes with us. He saved my life multiple times. I will not leave him. Daehyun studied Taemin carefully, a human mechanic. The Queen is very interested in meeting you. The repairs you made to royal technology are impressive. Even our best technicians were surprised by the quality of work described in your message. I just did what needed to be done, Taemin said uncomfortably. That is precisely what makes it impressive. Very well, you will both come with me. But we must leave now. They followed Daehyun through the quiet streets. He moved with the confidence of someone who knew exactly where he was going and how to avoid attention. They reached a secured landing pad where a small Valkyrie shuttle waited, guarded by 2 more warriors. As they approached the shuttle, shots rang out. Energy bolts streaked through the air. The assassins had found them. Daehyun moved with incredible speed, his weapon drawn and returning fire. The 2 guards formed a protective circle around Hana and Taemin. More assassins appeared from different directions. This was a coordinated attack. Get them to the shuttle, Daehyun ordered. The guards pushed Hana and Taemin toward the ship while Daehyun held the assassins back. They were almost to the shuttle when an assassin broke through the defensive line. He aimed directly at Hana. Taemin didn't think, just acted. He threw himself between the assassin and Hana. The energy bolt hit him in the shoulder and pain exploded through his body. He fell to the ground, his vision blurring. The last thing he saw before darkness took him was Hana's terrified face, and Daehyun finishing off the assassin with precise, lethal efficiency. When Taemin woke, he was lying on something soft. Medical equipment beeped around him. His shoulder throbbed, but the pain was manageable. He tried to sit up and immediately felt dizzy. Careful, a gentle voice said. You took a serious hit. You are lucky to be alive. He focused and saw a medical technician, Valkyrie, adjusting his bandages. Where am I? The Queen's ship. You have been unconscious for 6 hours. The princess has been very worried about you. Hana, is she safe? Completely safe. The assassins who attacked you are dead or captured. Thanks to you, the princess survived long enough for us to reach her. The door opened and Daehyun entered. The security chief looked at Taemin with something that might have been respect. You are awake. Good. The Queen wishes to meet you. Are you strong enough to walk? I think so. With the technician's help, Taemin stood. His legs were shaky but functional. Daehyun led him through the ship's corridors. Everything was beautiful and advanced far beyond human technology. They stopped at a large door. The Queen is inside with the princess. I will warn you, human. Queen Yuna is grateful for what you did, but she is also the ruler of a vast empire. Show proper respect. The door opened and Taemin entered. The room was elegant, decorated with things he couldn't name, but he barely noticed the surroundings because his attention was drawn to the 2 figures in the center. Hana ran to him immediately. Taemin! You are awake. I was so scared. You took that shot meant for me. I'm okay, just a little sore. Behind Hana stood Queen Yuna. Up close, she was even more impressive than on the broadcasts. Power and authority radiated from her, but her eyes were fixed on him with intense curiosity. So, the Queen said, her voice rich and commanding, you are the poor mechanic who saved my daughter's life. The maintenance tunnels were dark and cold. Taemin led the way with a small flashlight, moving quickly but carefully. Behind them he could hear sounds of pursuit. Footsteps on metal, voices speaking in harsh Valkyrie tones. How many? Hana whispered, her hand gripping his jacket. At least 3, maybe more. Can your shield stop their weapons? For a while, but it will drain quickly against energy fire. They reached a junction where 4 tunnels met. Taemin paused, thinking. He knew these tunnels from years of repair work. Most people on the outpost didn't even know they existed. That was his advantage. This way, he said, taking the left tunnel. It was narrower and led toward the old processing plant. The plant had been abandoned for 2 years after a cave-in made it too dangerous to operate. They moved through the darkness, their footsteps echoing softly. Behind them, the pursuit sounds grew fainter. The assassins didn't know the tunnels. They were guessing which way to go. After 20 minutes of walking, they reached the old processing plant. Taemin found a storage room that was still structurally sound and pulled Hana inside. He closed the door quietly and wedged a metal bar against it. "We should be safe here for a while," he said, sitting down heavily. His legs were shaking from the adrenaline. "They won't find this place easily." Hana sat beside him, her breathing fast. "Thank you, again. I keep needing to thank you. Don't thank me yet. We're not out of this." They sat in silence for a moment, catching their breath. Then Hana spoke quietly. "Why do you keep helping me? You could have turned me over days ago. You could have walked away when the assassins came. But you keep protecting me." Taemin thought about his answer. "When I was young, my family was poor. Very poor. We lived in a mining colony worse than this one. One winter we ran out of food. My mother was sick, and my father was injured in a mining accident. We were going to die." He paused, remembering. A stranger came to our door. A merchant from off-world. He saw how bad things were and gave us food and medicine. He didn't have to. We had nothing to offer him. But he said that's what people should do for each other. Help when help is needed. Did your family survive? Yes, my mother recovered. My father healed. We made it through that winter because of that stranger's kindness. I never forgot it. I learned that sometimes the most important thing you can do is help someone who needs it, no matter who they are or what it cost you. Hana was quiet for a long moment. In my culture, such a debt is considered sacred. That merchant created a bond with your family that can never be broken. I don't think he wanted anything in return. I think he just wanted to be a good person. That is very human, Hana said softly. My mother tries to explain this to the council. She says humans have a capacity for compassion that goes beyond self-interest. Many council members think it is weakness, but my mother thinks it is strength. A sudden bang on metal echoed through the tunnels, distant but getting closer. The assassins were still searching. Taemin stood up. "We need to keep moving. This room won't stay safe forever." They left the storage room and continued deeper into the tunnel system. Taemin led them through a maze of passages, sometimes doubling back, sometimes taking routes that seemed random. But he had a plan. He was leading them toward the Outpost's main power station. It was heavily guarded even during emergencies. The assassins wouldn't be able to operate openly there. As they walked, they heard another sound. Voices, but different from the assassins. These were speaking Universal Standard, the common language of the colonies. Search Team 3, report your position. Sector 12, tunnel network. No sign of intruders. Colonial security was in the tunnels too, searching for the assassins. That complicated things. Taemin couldn't reveal Hana to them either. Some colonial officers might be sympathetic, but others might hand her over to the wrong people for the reward money. They hid in an alcove while a security patrol passed by. Taemin held his breath and Hana's shield flickered slightly, ready to activate if needed. The patrol moved past without noticing them. That was the third patrol, Hana whispered. The whole outpost is looking for the assassins now. Maybe we should reveal ourselves to the security forces. Not yet. We don't know who we can trust. Some of those assassins might be disguised as security officers. They continued through the tunnels, always staying ahead of both the assassins and the security forces. Taemin's knowledge of the tunnel system was the only thing keeping them alive. Then they heard it. A sound that made Taemin's blood run cold. Heavy footsteps moving fast and directly toward their position. Someone had figured out where they were going. "Run!" Taemin shouted, abandoning stealth. They sprinted through the tunnel. Behind them, energy weapons fired. Bright blue bolts of energy struck the walls, melting metal and stone. Hana's shield activated automatically, deflecting a shot that would have hit her back. But Taemin saw the shield flicker. It was draining fast. They reached a section where the tunnel split 3 ways. Taemin had an idea. He grabbed a plasma torch from his tool belt and quickly cut through a support beam. It collapsed behind them, blocking the tunnel with debris. "That won't stop them for long," he said, "but it will slow them down." They took the right tunnel, and Taemin led them to a maintenance shaft that went up to the surface. It was a tight fit, barely wide enough for a person to climb. "Up," he told Hana. Climb as fast as you can. She started climbing, and he followed. His arms burned with effort, but fear gave him strength. Below, he heard the assassins clearing the debris. They would be at the shaft soon. Hana reached the top and pushed open the access hatch. Bright daylight blinded them after the darkness of the tunnels. They emerged in an alley between two buildings far from Tayman's workshop, but they weren't safe yet. An assassin emerged from the shadows at the end of the alley. He was tall, wearing clothes that looked like normal colonial wear but moved like a trained killer. His weapon was raised and aimed at Hana. Tayman didn't think. He grabbed a loose pipe from the ground and threw it. His aim was true. The pipe hit the assassin's weapon, knocking it aside. The energy bolt fired wildly, hitting a wall. The assassin moved toward them with inhuman speed. Hana's shield flared, stopping his first attack. But Tayman could see the shield was nearly depleted. They had seconds at best. Looking around desperately, Tayman saw a control panel for the building's maintenance systems. He ran to it and slammed his fist on the emergency release. With a loud hiss, steam erupted from vents all around them. The alley filled with hot vapor, obscuring vision. Go! Tayman grabbed Hana's hand and pulled her through the steam. The assassin was shouting behind them, but the steam had bought them precious seconds. They ran through the streets of the outpost, mixing with the confused crowds. Alarms were still wailing. People were scared and running to shelters. In the chaos, two more running people didn't stand out. Tayman led Hana to a small commercial building he had done repair work on. He knew the owner, a kind older woman who ran a fabric shop. The shop was closed, but Tayman had a spare access code from when he fixed her heating system. They slipped inside and locked the door behind them. The shop was dark and quiet. They moved to the back room and collapsed on some crates, both breathing hard. That was too close, Hana said, her voice shaking. Tayman checked her shield generator. It was completely drained. We can't run forever. Those assassins are too skilled and your shield is dead. We need help. Real help. But who can we trust? Tayman thought hard. Then an idea came to him. A risky idea, but possibly their only chance, your mother. Queen Yuna. She's here searching for you, right? We need to contact her directly. Not the regular search teams, but her personally. She's the only one we know for certain isn't part of the conspiracy. But how? If we use normal communication channels, the assassins might intercept the message. Tayman smiled despite the fear. Then we don't use normal channels. You said I understand your technology well, right? I repaired your shield. I fixed your translator. I've been studying your ship systems. I think I can create a message that only someone with knowledge of your specific ship could decrypt. Your mother would have that knowledge. Hana's eyes widened with hope. That could work. But we need equipment. Communication equipment. Tayman stood up, his determination renewed. Then we get equipment. I know where the outpost keeps spare communication gear. It's risky, but everything is risky now. You are very brave, Hana said. For a mechanic, you think like a warrior. I'm not brave. I'm terrified. But I'm not going to let fear stop me from doing what's right. The news spread through the outpost like fire. Velkari ships in orbit. Multiple vessels, conducting what they officially called a security sweep. But everyone knew something unusual was happening. The Velkari Empire never sent this many ships for routine operations. Tayman watched the news feeds while Hana sat quietly on the couch, the translator device between them. The broadcaster showed images of the sleek Velkari ships hovering above Keshar 7. They were beautiful and intimidating, far more advanced than anything in the human colonial fleet. They are looking for someone important, the news anchor said. Though Velkari officials have not released specific details, sources suggest this may be related to a missing person of high status. The Empire has requested full cooperation from colonial authorities. Tayman turned off the screen and looked at Hana. She was staring at her hands, the glowing marks on her skin pulsing slowly. He picked up the translator and spoke. Hana, I need the truth. All of it. Who are you really? She was quiet for a long moment. Then she took the translator and began to speak. Her words came out slowly, carefully. My full name is Hana Velkaris. I am the crown princess of the Velkari Empire. My mother is Queen Yuna Velkaris. Tayman felt like someone had punched him in the stomach. A princess. He had been hiding a princess in his workshop. The daughter of one of the most powerful rulers in known space had been sleeping on his couch, eating his protein bars. How did you end up here? He asked when he found his voice again. Hana's expression became sad. There is a group in my mother's council. They do not like her policies. My mother believes the Velkari should work more closely with humans and other species. She thinks isolation makes us weak. But some council members think humans are inferior. They want the Empire to remain separate and dominant. She paused, gathering her thoughts. 3 nights ago I was in the palace gardens. My guard Jiwon came running. She said there was danger, that some council members had hired assassins. She put me in an escape pod and set it to autopilot. She stayed behind to give me time to escape. Hana's voice cracked. I saw them kill her. She died protecting me. Taemin felt anger rise in his chest. Assassins killing a guard to get to a child. It was monstrous. The pod was supposed to take me to a safe house, Hana continued. But they shot at me. Damaged the navigation system. I crashed here by accident. I did not know this was a human world until I saw you. And now your mother is searching for you, Taemin said. Hana nodded. She must be very worried. But I am also afraid. If the assassins know the search is happening, they will know I am alive. They will still be hunting for me. I cannot just reveal myself. It might put others in danger. Taemin understood. This wasn't a simple rescue situation. This was politics, assassination plots, and dangers he couldn't fully comprehend. But one thing was clear to him. I won't let anyone hurt you, he said firmly. Princess or not, you're under my protection now. Hana looked at him with surprise. You would protect me? Even knowing how dangerous this is? You could give me to the authorities, claim a reward. You would be rich, Taemin shook his head. That's not how humans should behave. At least not this human. You came to me for help and I'll help you. Money doesn't matter if I can't look at myself in the mirror. For the first time since he met her, Hana smiled. It was small but genuine. My mother was right about humans. She said you have something special. Compassion that goes beyond logic. I understand now. A loud knock on the workshop door made them both jump. Taemin quickly hid the translator and gestured for Hana to go into the back room. She moved silently like a ghost. He opened the door to find 2 men in colonial security uniforms. One was human, the other was a Centauri merchant who lived on the outpost. Good morning, the human officer said. We're conducting searches as requested by our Velkari friends. Have you seen any unusual activity in the past few days? Taemin kept his expression neutral. Just the usual. Broken equipment, frustrated miners. Why? What's going on? Can't say exactly, the Centauri officer replied. But the Velkari are looking for someone. Someone important. If you see any strangers or suspicious activity, report it immediately. There's a substantial reward for information. They looked past him into the workshop. Taemin's heart pounded, but he kept his voice casual. I'll keep my eyes open. Business has been slow, so I could use a reward. The officers seemed satisfied and moved on to the next building. Taemin closed the door and let out a breath he didn't know he was holding. Hana emerged from the back room, her eyes wide. That was close, she said through the translator. Too close. We need to be more careful. Over the next 2 days, the searches intensified. Velkari security forces landed at the outpost, working alongside colonial authorities. They were professional and polite but thorough. Taemin watched them carefully, trying to identify which ones might be trustworthy and which might be the assassins in disguise. He hid Hana in different places around the workshop. Behind false panels he created, in the crawl spaces beneath the floor. Once, when searchers came too close, he hid her inside a large engine casing, telling the officers it was too dangerous to open without proper equipment. Each time they came close to discovery, Taemin found a way to deflect them. His knowledge of the outpost's layout and his quick thinking kept them safe, but he knew their luck couldn't last forever. On the 3rd night, something changed. Taemin was working on Hana's shield generator, the device from her belt. He had been studying it for days, slowly understanding how it worked. It was incredible technology, creating an energy field that could stop physical attacks. If I can get this working, he told Hana, it might give you protection if things go wrong. She watched him work with admiration. You are very skilled. Even our technicians would be impressed with how quickly you understand our technology. It's just mechanics, Taemin said. The principles are universal. Your people just execute them better. He made a final adjustment and the device hummed to life. A faint shimmer surrounded Hana, then faded to invisible. The shield was active. Test it, he said, picking up a small bolt. He tossed it gently at her. The bolt stopped in midair a few inches from her body and fell to the ground. Hana laughed with delight. You did it. This could have saved Jiwon. Her smile faded at the memory of her fallen guard. Their moment of success was interrupted by alarms. Loud sirens began wailing across the outpost. Taemin checked his communication device and saw an emergency alert. Security breach. All citizens remain in shelters. Armed intruders in Sector 7. Sector 7. That was 2 sectors away from his workshop, and Sector 7 was where the Velkari search teams had set up their base of operations. The assassins, Hana whispered, her face pale. They are here. Taemin grabbed his emergency pack. We need to move now. Where can we go? He thought quickly. The maintenance tunnels. The old mining tunnels run under the whole outpost. I know them well. We can hide there until this is over. They heard gunfire in the distance. Energy weapons, not the projectile weapons humans typically used. The sound was getting closer. Taemin opened a hatch in the floor of his workshop that led down into the tunnels. Go, I'll be right behind you. Hana climbed down quickly. Taemin grabbed a few tools and supplies, then followed her. He closed the hatch behind them just as he heard his workshop door explode inward. In the darkness of the tunnel, lit only by the glow from Hana's skin markings, they ran. Behind them, they heard voices speaking in Velkari. Not the search teams. These voices were cold and determined. The assassins had found his workshop, and now they were coming. The morning sun filled the workshop with light. Taemin watched Hana as she carefully examined each tool on his workbench. She picked up a screwdriver, turned it over in her hands, and made a sound that might have been approval. Despite the language barrier, he could see she understood the purpose of these simple tools. He made breakfast, simple eggs and toast. Hana ate carefully, still cautious but less afraid than last night. Between bites, she tried to speak to him. The words came out in her musical language, but when she saw his confused expression, she would stop and try different sounds. She was testing, learning which sounds he could understand. After breakfast, Taemin faced a difficult decision. He should contact the authorities. It was the legal thing to do, the safe thing to do. He pulled out his communication device and started to dial the colonial office number. Immediately, Hana was beside him, her hand on his arm. Her eyes were wide with terror. No? He asked, showing her the device. She shook her head violently and pulled at his arm, speaking rapidly in her language. The fear in her voice was clear. She was begging him not to call. Taemin put the device away. Okay. I won't call anyone. She seemed to understand his tone and relaxed a little, but he noticed she kept glancing at the device nervously. An official transport vehicle rolled past the workshop on the main road. The moment Hana heard its engine, she dropped to the floor and crawled behind a stack of equipment. She stayed there, barely breathing, until the sound faded completely. When Taemin helped her up, her whole body was shaking. What are you so afraid of? He asked quietly. She looked at him with those large eyes and started drawing on a piece of paper from his desk. Her drawings were simple but clear. She drew what looked like a small ship, then showed it falling from the sky. She drew stick figures chasing another figure. Then she pointed to herself. Taemin felt a chill run down his spine. Someone was hunting her. She hadn't just crashed here by accident. She was running from something or someone. He thought about her injuries, the expensive technology, and her obvious fear of authorities. This was bigger than he had imagined. But knowing this didn't change his decision to help her. If anything, it made him more determined. Your ship, he said, pointing to her drawing. Where is it? He made a gesture of looking around. She seemed to understand and pointed toward the wasteland outside the outpost. She held up her hand and spread her fingers wide, then pointed at the ground. Far away? Taemin grabbed his tools and supplies. Show me, he said, gesturing for her to lead the way. Hana hesitated, looking at the door nervously. But finally she nodded. They left through the back exit of his workshop, avoiding the main roads. The wasteland of Kesher 7 stretched out before them, rocky and desolate. Hana led him through the terrain with surprising confidence despite her injuries. She moved like someone trained to survive in harsh environments. After an hour of walking, they found it. The escape pod was partially buried in sand and rocks, hidden in a small canyon. Taemin stared at it in amazement. The design was beautiful and alien, smooth curves instead of the angular shapes of human ships. Even crashed and damaged, it looked more like art than machinery. He approached carefully and ran his hands over the hull. The metal was cool and seemed to shimmer in the sunlight. This was technology decades beyond what humans had. He found the access panel and managed to open it. Inside, the systems were complex but not completely foreign. The basic principles were the same, just executed with far greater skill and knowledge. Hana watched him work, occasionally pointing at things and speaking in her language. He realized she was trying to help him understand the systems. She knew this technology well. The navigation system was partially intact. Taemin connected his portable scanner to it and managed to pull some data. What he saw made him go still. The flight path showed the pod coming from deep space, from a region marked as Velkari Empire territory. That space was restricted off-limits to humans by treaty. Velkari, he said aloud, looking at Hana. She nodded when she heard the word, then pointed to herself. She was Velkari. Taemin sat back on his heels, his mind racing. The Velkari Empire was one of the most powerful civilizations in known space. They were advanced, wealthy, and kept themselves separate from other species. Humans had only limited contact with them, mostly through official diplomatic channels. They were not enemies, but not exactly friends either. What was a Velkari child doing alone in an escape pod, crashing on a remote human outpost? And who would dare to hunt a Velkari citizen? The Empire was known to be very protective of their people. He looked at the pod's damage more carefully. Weapon marks. This pod had been shot at, multiple times. Someone had tried very hard to stop it from escaping. "We need to get you somewhere safe," Taemin said, more to himself than to Hana. But she seemed to understand the tone. She nodded and touched his arm gently, a gesture of trust. They couldn't stay at the crash site. Someone might find it. Taemin grabbed what salvageable technology he could carry, including what looked like a translator device, though it was badly damaged. If he could fix it, maybe they could actually communicate properly. On the walk back to the workshop, Taemin's mind worked through the possibilities. If Hana was important enough for someone to attack her ship, people would be looking for her. The Velkari Empire would send search parties, and whoever attacked her might still be hunting. His small workshop on a forgotten outpost suddenly felt very exposed. When they returned, Taemin immediately started working on the translator device. It was intricate work requiring all his skill and patience. Hana sat beside him, watching closely. Sometimes she would make a sound and point, trying to tell him something about how the device worked. As he worked, official news feeds played on his small screen. He had it on low volume, just background noise usually, but then he heard something that made him freeze. The Velkari Empire has issued a statement regarding increased security operations in border regions, the news anchor said. Imperial ships have been spotted conducting what they describe as routine sweeps of several systems, including the Kaeshir sector. Taemin looked at Hana. She was staring at the screen, her expression unreadable. The timing couldn't be a coincidence. They were looking for something. Or someone. "Are they looking for you?" he asked her. She met his eyes and nodded slowly. Then she placed her hand over her heart and spoke a long sentence in Velkari. Even without understanding the words, he could hear the emotion in her voice. Sadness, fear, and something else. Longing, maybe. He returned to working on the translator. They needed to talk. Really talk. Because Taemin had a feeling that he was in the middle of something much bigger than a simple rescue, and he needed to understand what he was dealing with before the Velkari Empire, or whoever attacked Hana, found them. The translator device sparked in his hands, and a small light flickered on. Hana gasped and leaned forward. Taemin made a few more adjustments, and the light turned steady green. "Can you hear me?" he asked, speaking slowly into the device. There was a moment of silence, then the device spoke in Hana's musical language. Her face lit up with joy. She grabbed the device and spoke into it rapidly. The translator processed her words and spoke in slightly mechanical but clear human language. "Yes, I can understand you now. Thank you for fixing it." "Thank you for everything," Taemin smiled with relief. Finally, they could communicate. "We need to talk. I need to understand what's happening." "Who are you really, Hana?" The cold wind of Kaeshir 7 cut through the night like a blade. Taemin pulled his worn jacket tighter as he locked the front door of his workshop. The metal building groaned against the wind, just like everything else on this forgotten outpost. He was tired. His hands were covered in grease and his back ached from spending 14 hours fixing a broken water processor. The pay was barely enough to cover his rent and food, but it was all he had. He turned toward his small quarters attached to the workshop when he heard it. A soft sound, almost like a whimper. Taemin stopped and listened. The sound came again, weaker this time. He grabbed the flashlight from his belt and walked toward the noise. Behind a pile of scrap metal near his workshop, he found her. A girl, but not human. Her skin had strange markings that glowed faintly in the darkness, flickering like dying lights. She wore clothes that were torn and burned. Blood, dark blue instead of red, seeped from cuts on her arms and legs. She looked up at him with large eyes filled with fear and pain. Taemin's first thought was to call the authorities. Harboring an unregistered alien on the outpost was illegal. They could deport him, maybe even throw him in prison. But as he looked at her small, trembling form, those thoughts faded. She was just a child, maybe 12 years old. She was hurt and scared. "It's okay," he said softly, holding up his hands to show he meant no harm. "I won't hurt you." She flinched when he moved closer, but she was too weak to run. Taemin knelt beside her and carefully examined her injuries. He had basic medical training, enough to keep himself alive in this harsh place. The cuts weren't deep, but she was in shock and probably had internal injuries from whatever happened to her. "Can you walk?" he asked. She stared at him, not understanding. He pointed to his workshop and then to her, making walking motions with his fingers. She seemed to understand and nodded weakly. Taemin helped her to her feet. She was light, too light. He half-carried her into his workshop and laid her on the old couch in his quarters. The room was small and cluttered with spare parts and tools, but it was warm and safe. He grabbed his medical kit and started cleaning her wounds. She winced but didn't cry out. Tough kid, he thought. As he worked, he noticed things about her that seemed strange. Her skin had a different texture, almost like it had tiny scales. The glowing marks on her arms formed patterns that looked deliberate, like tattoos but alive. And her blood, that dark blue blood, clotted faster than human blood should. "What happened to you?" he asked, not expecting an answer. She looked at him and spoke in a language he didn't understand. The words were musical, almost like singing. She seemed frustrated when he shook his head. After he finished bandaging her wounds, Taemin gave her water and some protein bars. She sniffed the food suspiciously before taking a small bite. Her expression showed surprise, then hunger. She ate quickly, like she hadn't eaten in days. While she ate, Taemin examined what she was wearing. The material was unlike anything he had seen. It looked like cloth but felt stronger, almost like armor. And on her belt was a small device, crushed and broken. He picked it up carefully. Even damaged, he could tell this was advanced technology, far beyond what humans had on the frontier. "Where did you come from?" he wondered aloud. She watched him with those large eyes, and for a moment he saw something in them. Not just fear, but intelligence. Understanding. She might be young, but she was smart. Taemin set up a small bed for her using blankets and cushions. She lay down immediately, exhaustion taking over. Within minutes, she was asleep. He sat in his chair and watched her, thinking about what he should do. The right thing would be to contact the colonial authorities. They had protocols for situations like this, but something told him that would be a mistake. The way she had reacted with such fear when she first saw him, the expensive technology she carried, the unusual nature of her injuries. This wasn't a simple case of a lost child. He thought about the outpost's location. Keshar 7 was on the edge of known space near the borders of several alien territories. One of those territories belonged to the Velkari Empire, a powerful civilization that humans had little contact with. They were advanced, secretive, and preferred to keep to themselves. Could she be from there? Taemin rubbed his tired eyes. Tomorrow he would try to figure out where she came from. Tonight she needed rest and safety. He would give her that much at least. He woke up several times during the night to check on her. Each time she was sleeping peacefully, the glowing marks on her skin pulsing gently with her breathing. In the quiet darkness of his workshop with the wind howling outside, Taemin made a decision. Whatever trouble this girl was in, whatever danger she was running from, he would help her, not because he expected a reward or recognition, simply because it was the right thing to do. As dawn approached, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple, the girl stirred. She sat up quickly, panic in her eyes, until she saw Taemin sitting in his chair. He smiled and held up his hands in that same peaceful gesture from last night. "Good morning," he said gently. "You're safe here." She relaxed slightly and spoke again in her musical language. Then she seemed to think for a moment and touched her chest. "Hana," she said clearly. It was simplified, he could tell, but it was a name he could understand. Taemin smiled and touched his own chest. "Taemin," She repeated his name carefully, her pronunciation almost perfect. Then she looked around the workshop with curiosity. Despite everything she had been through, there was wonder in her eyes. She stood up slowly, testing her injured legs, and walked to the workbench where his tools were laid out. She picked up a wrench and examined it with interest, as if she had never seen such a simple tool before. Taemin watched her, more certain now than ever that this girl was someone special, someone important, and somehow in the middle of the night on a forgotten outpost, she had stumbled into his life. He had no idea that this simple act of kindness would change everything, not just for him but for the entire relationship between humanity and the stars beyond.